Hello, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us as we went through a couple technical difficulties on the back end. My name is Courtney Pollock, and I am the Customer Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. And I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Take Financial Control with an Advanced Budgeting Solution, presented by Beth Harvey and Stephanie Johnstone from Solver. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping items. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum. However, throughout the webinar, you can submit any questions you have. If you'd like to submit a question, look for the question section in your GoToWebinar panel, and we'll answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. In your GoToWebinar panel, you also have the ability to change your presentation view, zoom in and out, download a copy of the presentation and other handouts, and also ask questions and participate in the chat. We're also recording this presentation, and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees, as well as those who registered but were unable to attend today. And finally, we'd appreciate participation in our poll questions and closing survey. With that said, SWK is here to help you get the most out of your software solutions and here to help you fulfill your vision of a smarter and easier way to run your business by providing you with tools, support, software, and industry knowledge whenever you need it. So whether you're here to explore a new solution or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions you have. And as a final reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important tips and tricks on our social media channels. So you can check us out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or follow our YouTube channel where we post a lot of our recorded webinars and other video content. Okay, that's enough for me. I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie and Beth for the main event.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and what a pleasure it is to be here with you and the team at SKW, as well as all of your customers. I'd like to introduce myself as Beth Harvey. I'm the Partner Development Manager that works very closely with SKW. And on the line with me today is Stephanie Johnstone, who's the VP of Solutions and Engineering here at Solver. We're going to take you through a few slides, and then we'll jump into a demonstration of the product. But before we do so, I'm definitely going to go ahead and shut myself off camera so we can focus directly on our slides as well as the demonstration. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So taking control, take financial control with an advanced budgeting solution. So who is Solver and what do we do? So Solver was founded in 1996 in California, and we have 15 global offices. Our team is very, very experienced in CPM and business intelligence. We are a SOC 2 and HIPAA certified and compliant as ISV, and we partner with many partners within the Sage Intact as well as Acumatica communities such as SWK. So as we talk about what thriving businesses need, what we really look at today is a lot of businesses are looking to find that easy way to get access to data across the organizations. And really right now it's hard to do that and hard to get it correct as well as get it done efficiently. And with Solver, we have the ability to do that. Before I move into the next slide, I believe Courtney has a poll that we're going to go ahead and put up.
Yes, so we would like to know, have you ever used a budgeting spreadsheet formula that was so complex you couldn't explain it to your colleagues? I think we've all, been through the trials and tribulations of a complex Excel sheet, whether it gets, much too large, those formulas don't line up. So if it looks like it's relatable for a lot of people out there in our audience, Beth and Stephanie. It looks so far we've got 83% who say yes, they've done that. And to the 17% that haven't had this, I think we're counting yourself lucky.
Oh wow, that is some great feedback there, and thank you everybody for participating in that. I know myself, as well as many others that you have participated, have said yes, complex Excel spreadsheets can drive you crazy, right? So with Solver, we talk about that we are a corporate performance management solution. So what really is that? So corporate performance management can be defined as quite a few different things. A lot of different functions define what that is, but really Solver encompasses all of those different functions, and we can narrow it down to three main pillars that actually anchor the Solver suite. First, let's talk about planning. So as you talked about some of those spreadsheets that you have no idea what's going on, you're trying to get information here or there and trying to even plan. With Solver, we give you that advanced planning, budgeting, forecasting, as well as modeling of all of it. And to include, we have advanced workflow to bring the entire organization together in Solver. So not only can you take care of information, but you're not then emailing spreadsheets of budgets to the person over in the next cube to try and understand what they're doing, and they're emailing that budget. It's one version of the truth. Another part of Solver for our corporate performance management is our reporting. And it's not just basic reporting, but it's complex reporting to handle multiple entities and reporting across an entire organization. So we can have not only financial, but also operational reporting from all departments. We also include advanced consolidation with eliminations functionality within our product. Also, when we look at Solver, we provide analysis, which is key performance indicators, or probably known better to you as KPIs. This really helps us get that information and have at one source of truth and all in one CPM suite, which is Solver, and we can have that all done very, very quickly. So why is CPM so important right now? Well, I mentioned that, Solver is a single source of truth, but many companies don't have that single source of truth, which really slows down how they're going to make decisions, not only monthly, daily, or even annually for their company. And also there's that terrible process of when they're really trying to do all these things, it's manual. And of course, any manual process is more prone to error. And heavily relying on Excel budgeting for forecasting really lacks that real-time update. When we've polled different CFOs, 63% of those CFOs ranked FP&A as a top priority for improvement. And many CFOs pull together their data manually and run those forecasts and scenarios offline. And 68% of companies spent more time on data prep than analysis. So it's a huge part of your everyday need within your company. When we look at what Solver can do to expand the functionality of your ERP, whether that's Sage or Acumatica, we can take it further in regards to the HR planning and the what if budgeting and forecasting, the consolidation of non-ERP entities, as well as if you're bringing in historical data from a migration, or maybe you have an outsourced data or outsourced information that you want that brought in to be able to evaluate that specific information as well. Solver can help in all of that beyond just your basic ERP functionality. If we look a little deeper into regards to like the architecture of Solver, if we look at the bottom of this diagram, we can see examples of typical data sources that host important information. By collecting the key information from some or all of these organization transactions, and they go into Solver's pre-built user-defined data warehouse, it actually helps you achieve one version of the truth, and the data becomes easily accessible for reporting, planning, and dashboards. In order to provide maximum layout and formula flexibility, as well as to be familiar to business owners, Solver's reporting and planning modules offer a powerful, cloud-connected Excel add-in as a template design experience. And it really helps with our template marketplace that allows you to have access to many templates and dashboards that are available to you with our Quick Start program. We offer the #1 dashboard module because it's powered by Microsoft's Power BI, which directly integrates to Solver's data warehouse. And at the top of this page, you can see that the executive, the managers, the end users, they're all going to benefit from the functionality of Solver to help them gain complete insight so they can make faster and better decisions for the organization. I talked briefly about Quick Start when I mentioned our marketplace and our templates and dashboards. Solver offers a Quick Start accelerated time to value to get you up and running within 1 day. 1 day deployment for your reporting, planning, and dashboards. You have access to many different templates and dashboards as well that are created for your industry, and you can get running and up and going easily as one day. So what does the Solver Suite offer you? We offer you data warehouse, the reporting, planning, marketplace, e-learning, as well as secure scalability as it's built on Azure Cloud. Every user receives the Solver Suite. I'm now going to have it handed over to Stephanie, who will go into the demo.
All right. Thank you, Beth. I'm going to go ahead here and share my screen and get that going. All right. Let me get to my... All right, so everyone, you should be seeing my screen here okay. And what I do at Solver is I work with a lot of folks that are evaluating our solution, and they want to learn more about the tool and how we can address some specific scenarios for them. So I've pulled together a couple example scenarios that I'll take you through that are some common things that we hear from a lot of customers, some of the challenges that they're trying to address, and how we can do that with the Solver solution. So with that, let's take a look here at one of the first challenges that we hear quite frequently. So here's an example from our customer. We've been speaking with a gentleman named Michael Scott who needs flexible reporting and better insight into Sage Intacct and other data sources, which include things like Paylocity and Salesforce. So he's got a few different data sources that he's working with that he needs insight into. As a regional manager, he needs one tool that will give him full visibility into performance at Dunder Mifflin, and he doesn't have time or resources for a lengthy implementation. So we need to get him a tool where he's going to be able to get his financial information, operational information, probably some dashboards for performance, and get that quickly and easily without waiting weeks or months to implement a solution that can take a lot of time, resources, and cost. So let me talk to you a little bit about our solution at Solver, and then I'll show you this. So what we have, what Beth mentioned, we have a quick start implementation methodology and marketplace templates for Sage Intacct, as well as other solutions like Acumatica and Salesforce. So this is going to allow us to plug right into that Dunder Mifflin data for Michael Scott, get him up and running right away, and then he's going to be able to look through a marketplace of templates and decide what's going to work for him, download those and start running them. In addition, anything that's not in a template or not part of Quick Start, that's still not a problem because we have numerous pre-built connectors where we can connect to all sorts of other data sources, whether that's Excel, whether that's a homegrown database, and then we can put those into whatever format we want because we have a very user-friendly Excel-based report designer. So let's take a quick look at that within the Solver solution. So what you're seeing here, this is the Solver web portal. So this is where Michael Scott and all of Dunder Mifflin will be able to go in and access the reports they want to see or budget forms or anything like that. So what we would do, we would work with Michael and his team. We'd plug right into Sage Intacct for him. We'd plug right into Salesforce using our Quick Start connector. And as soon as we do that, what he's going to have access to is this tool right here called the Marketplace, where you see that little shopping cart. If I click into this marketplace, what Michael's going to be able to do is he'll see a representation with these little tiles of numerous different reports. Some of them are very more like graphical sort of visualizations where you can get great insight into different trends and things like that. And then there's also formatted things like financial reports, trial balances, reconciliation reports. All of these are going to work right out of the box. So what Michael's going to be able to do is he'll be able to go through this marketplace. He'll be able to determine exactly what he wants to download for both Sage Intacct and for Salesforce. When he sees something he likes, all he has to do is add it to install, click Install Templates, and then that new template is going to be in his Solver instance, and he can start running that right away without any additional configuration. So let's say Michael spent a little bit of time, he found some things he likes, he's downloaded them. Now he wants to start getting that insight into performance that we're talking about. So what does he do? So he's going to go right here to report templates. This is where he's going to see all of the templates that he's selected and downloaded. He found some really great ones that are going to work right out of the box and give him some of that visibility he was lacking. Now, he did mention that he likes more of an impactful visual type of report, so he can really see those trends. So he downloaded this one here called Profitability Analysis. And he can go in, he can make some initial selections for things like, what period do we want to run this as of? What's the last closed period? What company do we want to see? If you have multiple companies or perhaps branches, he might want to hone in on the Scranton branch. And then we can also see here, if we have different versions of the budget, we can pick and choose which one we would like to be comparing against here. So we can choose an updated forecast or budget. But then Michael can go in here, he can see his profitability analysis, he can see his trends, he can at a glance spot areas maybe where there's some concern, where there's a variance to targets here that are maybe a little bit higher than he would like. And what he can also do as he's doing this analysis is he can look at this in more detail. If he sees a value here that he'd like to further analyze, he can expand this to see the detailed accounts, and then he can also drill into those account balances and see the actual transactions that are coming over from Sage Intacct. So here he can see the individual journal entries and analyze what's posting. So all this can happen within the very first day of setup. So we've done away with those painful, lengthy implementations, gotten him up and running with a number of great templates that he can use out of the box. And then the nice thing is, because everything here is designed in Excel, he can go in and create some additional reports or have his team do that to suit some of his specific requirements. And that's going to be something that probably a lot of people on this call who answered that they may have created some Excel formulas that they can't explain to anyone else. Well, you're probably steps ahead of anyone else that needs to build something in Excel because you already have that familiarity. So it's a nice familiar tool where you can add on to these templates very quickly and very easily with some basic training on Solver. So that gets our first scenario here addressed for Michael Scott. He's now got visibility into Salesforce, into Sage Intacct. If he has some import files, we can connect to those. If he has an internal database, we can connect to that, and we can use templates, and we can use our own Excel models that we can build ourselves with the exact format that we want. So next scenario here, now we have a little bit of a budget scenario. So within this one, I spoke with Janet Levinson, Jan, and she's having a lot of trouble getting the budget templates distributed out to all of her department and regional managers. Everyone needs to put in their information and submit for their area of responsibility, but right now it's super manual. She's emailing these things out. She has no visibility. There's no approvals. Sometimes she's chasing people up to get responses back, and sometimes she's getting those responses in very strange formats. I think she mentioned one time she had, instead of an Excel file, someone just sent her a picture of the back of a napkin. So we want to put some strong controls in place for her so that she can see exactly what's going on with the budget for her different department managers, and she can make sure that they're only inputting exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So the way we can do that is with Solver's workflow. So this is where we can put assignments, we can put due dates, we can put approvals, and we can still make this very self-service for the managers so they can go in and submit and make any sort of inputs that they need to do. But Jan's going to have visibility into everything that's going on, and she can make sure it's getting properly reviewed and approved. So let me show you how that works. So here within Solver, if I look at this section here called Planning, this is where I have all of the tools for budgeting, forecasting, long-term strategic planning. And one of those key ones for typically for finance, for your budget administrators, is workflow. So within workflow, we can set specific assignments where, let's say we want all of our departments and all of our regions to submit a payroll budget for their branch. Well, the way we would do that is we would set up a new workflow. We would say, let's say branch payroll budget, whatever we want to call that. We can choose different people to be part of an approval and review process. So maybe Jan wants the regional manager or the HR manager for that branch to be the first reviewer. Then maybe it comes to her for final sign off. We can do that. We can also put in some due dates. So if we're not getting things done in a timely manner or people are submitting late, we can make sure that late changes aren't being posted to the budget, and we can make sure that there's a strict time frame for when those can be submitted. So we can make those types of selections. And then from there, what we're able to do is select from all of our different budget models that we have in Solver. Some of those we may download from that marketplace that are completely ready to use. Some we may have a little bit more custom using that Excel design interface, but we can select exactly what we want, which one we want to choose, and then we can select the users that are going to be responsible for inputting their particular area of the budget. Once we do that and we click on this Save and Publish button, it's going to send this out to all of the users. They're going to get an email notification. They're going to know they have an active budget assignment. And when they click into it, they'll be able to go in and submit that budget. Now for Jan, what she's going to be able to do is she's going to have insight into any active workflows. So here's an example of an active workflow. If she were to look at this one, she can see at a glance, it's 33% complete because there's 3 specific assignments. But if she wants more detail, she can go into status. She can see exactly what has been completed and by whom. So if there's 50 different branch managers, she can see who's complete with what, who's in progress. And if there's any real laggards who haven't even started, she can nudge them along as well to make sure that's complete. So that's great insight for her. Now, for the branch manager, let's say they get a notification that they have an active budget assignment. All they have to do is go click on that link from their email. It'll take them directly into their budget assignments. In this case, they're doing payroll. So I'm going to open my branch payroll here. I can go in and you'll see that Jan locked down these selections. So she has some strong controls in place, making sure that I'm budgeting for my correct area of responsibility to the correct version of the budget. And I can go in here as a user and I can make updates in only these yellow cells. If I try to type anywhere else, it won't let me. But I can do things like add employees. I can put in increases, decreases, new head count. If someone's leaving, I can put in things like an end date. And all of those changes are going to calculate my salary, my employer portion of payroll taxes, workers' comp, benefits, FTEs. And that gets summarized down here at the bottom by GL account for the budget. So as a branch manager, I go in, make all the changes, and once I'm happy with them, all I have to do is complete this assignment, and it's going to send that on to my next approver that Jan has set up, whether that's someone in HR, or maybe that goes directly to finance and then to her. They'll get notified, they can do their review, they can make revisions or send it back to me with revisions. So all the while, we have visibility into exactly where we are with the budget process. We have really good controls in place, making sure there's no errant entries, and Jan's going to have complete visibility into the budget while it's happening in real time. So that's how we can solve Jan's problem when it comes to workflows and manual processes with no visibility. Now for the third and final scenario that I want to show you here, this is around forecasting. So once we complete that annual budget, we want to make sure that we keep that up to date because there's constantly market changes. So we want to update our budget with new information and reforecast as frequently as possible. So here we've been speaking to David Wallace, and he has a challenge where he needs to be able to roll his forecast monthly and compare it against actuals. Right now, it's a manual process where he's downloading spreadsheets to get that roll forward information. But in addition to that, he also wants to forecast beyond just the general ledger. He also wants to do forecasting by salesperson, by product, and by employee. So we want to give him some flexibility there for the different areas of his budget. So what we can do within Solver is very easy for us to run any report that's going to show actuals updated on a regular basis alongside those budget numbers. So we can go in, update those budget numbers, create a forecast, whether that's a daily, weekly, or monthly, and we'll be able to see side by side what that looks like against our actuals. Also, because one of the things that we did right out of the gate was we did our quick start for Salesforce. That's going to give us great visibility into the sales side of things. So if we want to see what's happening with things like sales, pipeline, all of that information, we can leverage that too and get granular within the budgeting. So let me give you an example of what might be helpful to David in this particular case. So for David, the first thing we're talking about is we want to do some reporting and reforecasting on some of our budget versus actual information. So for that, I'm going to go here to my library of templates for budgeting and forecasting, and I'm actually going to pull up this one here, which is called a top-down driver-based budget. Because David is looking at things more long-term and strategic, he wants to be able to create different scenarios on the fly and see the impact of those changes. So what we're doing here is we are taking our actuals through the most current period, so year-to-date actuals for our GL accounts in the P&L. Then we're putting in some high-level drivers. In this case, we have a target income amount, a net income amount that we want to hit. We can plug that in. And as soon as we do that, what it's going to do is off here on the right-hand side, it's going to generate a forecast based on the actuals to date, what those projections would be to hit our target. The other thing you'll notice is that up here on top, we have a drop down for our forecast version. So maybe he wants to do one version where it's sort of a high growth strategy, and then maybe there's one where there's heavy inflation, or maybe there's market changes. He can model all of those out, save each of those individual ones, and then run a report against any of them to see which is most accurate. So here what we'll do is I'm going to pop this into full screen. I'm going to hit enter, and now we have a forecast projection for the remainder of the year. I can also go ahead, and if I don't know, if these adjustments aren't perfect, this is based on history and trends, so it's projecting it out sort of based on those calculations, but sometimes we know better than what those calculations can do. Maybe I know that a certain product revenue is going to increase by a different percentage. I can input those amounts here and adjust that individual line item. So a lot of flexibility there when it comes to budgeting. So that gives him that modeling piece, that gives him that actual to date plus forecast. And the other thing he wanted to do was be able to target by salesperson. And since we're leveraging a lot of that data from Salesforce, that's certainly something that we can do. So here I'm going to pull up sort of a high level strategic sort of planning and scorecard report that David would be using. And this is for all of those key managers across the organization, but the area that he wanted to focus in on was the sales department. So here we have some KPIs showing us performance, showing us growth. We have our individual salespeople, and we're able to see what their actuals are against target. Now, as I go through and I do some of that high-level modeling, I might need to make some adjustments to these numbers. So I could very quickly go in, update what these targets are for these salespeople. I could update what those projections will be for different areas of sales and pipeline and recruiting and all of that. And then what's going to happen is these changes will now be real-time available for me to report against in any comparative reporting I want to do. So it's as simple as updating those targets. And now if I have other dashboards, other reports, anything else that's looking at these numbers, I'll be able to see those changes reflected and immediately see how we're performing against those new numbers. So that's just an example of something a little different outside the general ledger and leveraging some of that key information that we've connected from Salesforce. So that's an example of some detailed forecasting, both with some what-if analysis as well as outside the GL. And that'll address David's concern and give him great visibility into everything that's going on and also help him from a strategic standpoint with better prediction. So with that, that was 3 different scenarios within Solver, some common things that we might see. Of course, the solution is very flexible, so that'll give you some ideas of what you can do and what you can expect to get out of the system. But of course, because it's flexible, everything that you're seeing can be tailored to your needs and to your specific requirements. So with that, I will hand the control back over so we can go to the next section of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And how great is it to actually see specific scenarios and to be able to adapt those into your everyday business needs? So really, really a great way to understand what Solver does and how we can help you on your everyday business. We'd also like to talk to you a little bit about how we are a leader within G2. Across the board, you can see for the easy setup, easiest to do business with, as well as a high performer. And as we continue on, I definitely want to make sure that everybody is aware that we want to make sure that you have the ability to download our free white paper and be able to get some more information in regards to Solver and gain that successful confidence when it comes to being able to create your own annual budget. Please feel free to scan that QR code. And now we're going to take some time to open it up to Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Beth and Stephanie, both for such an informative presentation. We are going to open up to Q&A, so thank you to everyone that's got a question in so far. If you have not had a chance to get your question in yet, you can put that in the question section of your GoToWebinar panel, and we'll start asking those in just a second. And also, in the meantime, while you're getting those questions in, we just want to run a final poll to like to know if you'd like to learn more about Solver's corporate performance management solution. So Stephanie was so kind to show us some of those very specific scenarios and a demo to go along with that. But if you'd like to see how exactly it could work for your business, let us know and we'll get you that personalized session and conversation, or just generally want to learn a little bit more about the product and what it can do, we'll have your SWK rep reach out to you. So I'll leave that open for just a couple more seconds, and then we're going to dive right into the Q&A. Beth and Stephanie got some great questions that come in. Okay, so let's dive into our first question from the audience. So Beth, Stephanie, the first question we have is the Quick Start integration available for all of my data sources or just GL?
Sure. So the Quick Start is available for General Ledger out of both Sage Intacct and Acumatica, and it's also available for Salesforce and a few other CRM tools. But one thing that's nice about Quick Start is we're continuously adding data sources and more subledgers, so you can expect that to grow. But beyond Quick Start, we also have the ability to connect to any sort of data source with some other pre-built connectors. So there's a lot of flexibility regardless of the type of data you need to connect to. But the Quick Start is specifically for that General Ledger, Sage Intacct, and Acumatica, as well as Salesforce, HubSpot, Microsoft CRM.
Great, thank you. And the next question we got is, how does licensing work? How do I share my budgeting templates across the organization? Would everyone need a Solver license, and would everyone need a Solver license to access them? So you can tell us a little bit more about licensing and access to these different budget templates.
Yeah. So for users to participate in the budget process, like the little example that we looked at earlier, they would need to be a Solver user. So they would need a user license. You can very much control what each user has access to based on their role and responsibilities to make sure it's a good experience for them and they only have access to what is going to be relevant to their role. But if you want them to go through the workflows and approval, be able to drill down, they would need to be a Solver user. You can download reports and share those via other formats like PDF and Excel, but really to get that full experience, especially when it comes to workflow, they would need to be a Solver user.
Thank you. Another question we had about some of the templates is, do the templates in the template marketplace cost anything?
Oh yeah, good question. So the templates in the marketplace, those are free to all Solver users. So there's over 100 or so templates. There's also some dashboards out there specific for Power BI. So you can really pick and choose what you want to use. The nice thing about them as well is they can give you some good ideas from design, because we've had some of our most experienced consultants who've worked with hundreds and hundreds of different customers design those with those best practices in mind. So they're a great resource, and there's numerous ones out there that most customers probably can use, and then also some great ways to get ideas.
Awesome. And I think this is going to be our last question, unless we have, a quick submission right here at the end. But can you tell me if Solver includes a what-if analysis?
Yeah, so for what if analysis, that one example that I showed near the end touched on it a little bit, right? So we were able to put in some different drivers and see, if we're trying to hit this target, what's the impact of that? But that really just scratches the surface. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to modeling what if analysis, where you can define what drivers you want to be able to control and what the impact there would be. So we can go much deeper than that, but that's certainly something that's very key within the planning portion of the solver solution.
Excellent. Well, with that, we just want to say a quick thank you to everyone that joined us today and took some time out of their busy day to be with us on this webinar. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you want to get more information, please let us know in the follow-up survey. Reach out to your SWK rep, reach out to us at info@swktech.com, and we'll connect you with the Solver team. We just scratched the surface today, so there's really a lot more to uncover, and we'd love to get you that information. Thank you, Beth and Stephanie, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.